Happy Beard Games,
your source for classic gaming goodness.
Do you remember video game instruction manuals? Nowadays, they don't come included in the general selection of most PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch video games as physical releases. Do you remember when video game manuals told the backstory not seen or told on screen? And do you remember when game manuals featured awesome concept art and game renders of your favorite characters? Do you remember when games came with a handy controller layout card? And now that they are gone, game manuals have become the subject of nostalgia, and people want them back. In today's video and our upcoming videos, we will explore all those questions and more. Back in the day, I used to hear a lot of people just throwing out game boxes and game manuals without ever even looking through them. But did you know that instruction manuals used to contain some actual awesome information of their games? I have always looked through most all of the manuals that came with the games that I got, and yes, while it is true that a majority of manuals are just gameplay basics, controls, and option explanations, back in the day, just about every game came with one. I picked out quite a few that stand out to me for having a greater information and details than the rest. Join me today as I look through some of the best, most interesting, and weirdest game manuals I've found. To keep today's video narrowed down, I am mainly focusing on games that came on cartridges from the Atari 2600 to the N64, with today's video focusing on the Atari 2600 and Intellivision consoles specifically. Future videos will feature the next generation, and the next video after that will be the next generation as well. We're going way back to the past to start out with the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision, two of the most popular game consoles of the late 1970s. And for Atari, the Atari 2600, which was first released in 1977, the main game boxes and their carts share a similar style, which I think looks pretty neat. Let's take a look at a few manuals from that time with early games such as Video Olympics, which is basically Pong, Missile Command, a great arcade hit, and Asteroids, another arcade smash. In the center page of Video Olympics, it details all the different styles or game variations included on the cart of Pong. It's crazy to think that they made so many different sports games out of a basic Pong game. Some of them look pretty cool, and it makes use of the paddle controllers, which if you've never tried is awesome on Atari. Missile Command is next. I once did a full game review on Missile Command in general, where I featured some of the manual information in that video too. This one gets interesting with a little backstory to the game only found in the book. At first glance, Missile Command is just a game about you defending bases against falling missiles, but based on the manual, we've got an awesome sci-fi story of aliens from the planet Krytol attacking you, the Zardonians, of the peaceful planet Zardon. The Krytolians are an evil warrior-like race trying to seize and destroy your planet. You play as the base commander of the peaceful planet's main defense system. This information gives a lot more depth and danger to the game. It also came out at a time where the threat of nuclear war was a topic in the news media, so it can parallel reality in ways as well outside of the game. Asteroids is another game with a small backstory and some really cool artwork accompanying the game. The story describes a calm day in outer space aboard a craft, and then the asteroids begin heading your way. The story adds some extra suspense and imagination to the basic looking video game. Some games have different boxes and cart designs, like this Parker Brothers game, Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, for example. Based upon the blockbuster film with the same name and taking place during the opening Battle of Hoth, this game's manual sadly doesn't have any original art, and it has a tiny background setup story. But where it helps the most in this case is explaining the gameplay. There are things you wouldn't know otherwise, such as rules like a bomb hatch on the Imperial Walker that becomes an instant destruction weak spot that you can try to aim for. It also details the scoring of the game itself with a points breakdown page. And additionally, for manuals that are not pictured in this video, there are some really important manuals for games out there, such as Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. Both games are definitely games that you want to have the manual with or some kind of instructions to go with your game, because games like E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark, as we've shown in my channel in the past when I did a full gameplay of Raiders of the Lost Ark, was extremely difficult to play if you didn't have a manual. But if you have a manual, you can guide your way through it, and just the basic instruction manual that came with the game will do. Now let's head over to the Intellivision from Mattel Electronics. On the Intellivision, games were a little different than on the Atari, the main difference being the controller. However, on screen the graphics are more or less the same on the Intellivision and the Atari. And the game cartridges box designs are really neat because they have a similar theme to them, kind of like the Atari ones did, and then it also comes with overlays for your controller. The controller is what I find to be the main difference between the Atari and the Intellivision. The Atari only has a single joystick and a single button on its normal controller, whereas the Intellivision has a ton of buttons and an overlay slot for those buttons to have different functions for each of the video games, which it came included with inside the manual. The Intellivision's phone-like controller has many buttons, especially when compared to Atari's one button. And we're looking at one game here on the Intellivision, which is Space Armada, which is Mattel's version of Space Invaders. The game manual here for Space Armada details the basic rules, objectives, and controls, plus offers a mail-in card to order more controller overlays. The controller overlays for Intellivision are really cool, and they offer a little bit of a difference and uniqueness to the console compared to the Atari. But unfortunately, the Intellivision manual for Space Armada doesn't feature any backstories or anything like that, no other art, just the basics of controls, rules, and objectives. And that's about it for what I'm calling the first generation of manuals from the Atari 2600 and the Intellivision. Next time on Hybrid Games, we'll go up a generation to talk and learn more about game manuals from the NES, the Sega Master System, and the Nintendo Game Boy, as well as others. So I hope if you like this video, you'll stay tuned for the next one. Things will get even more interesting in the next generation of video game instruction manuals. Thank you for watching.